Hello, Glitterjaw listeners! We want to hear from you. During the month of May, the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective is seeking your feedback about the shows we create, our collective as a whole, and your podcast listening habits. Head to bit.ly/Glitterjaw Pod Survey to share your feedback. At the end of the survey, you'll also have the option to share your email address for a chance to win a $50 gift card, courtesy of the collective. Thanks for listening. It's Screonk, a Godzilla movie marathon where we're stomping through Godzilla's filmography. I'm Derek, and I've seen all the Godzilla movies.
And I'm Doug, and I've seen Dogora in 2 movies, which is one more than I expected.
And we're talking about the standalone Toho kaiju film with a diamond-eating space jellyfish. Oh boy, Dogora, also known as Uchu Daikaiju Dogora, which translates to giant space monster Dogora in Japan, and Dogora, the space monster in the US. And just for fun, I threw this one in too after discovering this. X-3000 Phantoms Against Gangsters in West Germany.
Wait.
That is the
that
West
shit
Germany
rips,
title.
though.
That's kind of the best one.
Phantoms Against Gangsters?
Yes.
No, that's actually really good.
That's kind of maybe the best one. Like,
wow.
You shouldn't. Yeah, I think that would have, like, Dogora, it's obviously the monster's name. I get it. But, like, I don't know what the X-3000 part of it is, but
that
Phantoms.
I don't know.
Phantoms Against Gangsters, like, that is what this that is what this movie is. Like, that is what it is.
Wow. Okay.
That's a good title. I know. Yeah. It was released in Japan on August 11th, 1964, directed by Ishiro Honda, special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya, story by Jojiro Okami, written by Shinichi Sekizawa, produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka, with a score by Akira Ifukube. We'd like to take a quick moment, of course, to thank our spectacular patrons, Bo, Carl, Katie, Jason, Zoe, James, Keith, Cody, Toby, Hamish, Blake, Jace, Joe, David W., David A., Russ, Christian, Reed, Ben, Stuart, Will, Marilee, Robbie, Tyler, and Preston.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you so much. I feel like us doing Dogora right now, and then doing Gorath like next month, if there are any people out there, and I know that there are some who like don't like the non-chronological way that we do this, like this is probably making them fume right now because doing this movie now and then that movie later is like nonsense.
Look, we know they're out there. And we know you're listening.
Yeah. Most people say that
Most people like it.
That we go out of order, and that makes us different from other Godzilla podcasts.
Right. The vast majority of people are like, thank goodness. It's different.
It is hard to justify throwing this and then the following movie, which you have not seen, and I don't think you even know anything about.
No, I don't know anything about
into this.
One.
Yeah, it is weird, and admittedly, like it's a mixture of faux pas stuff and just trying to get this shit on the schedule somewhere. Dogora. If you hadn't heard before, in the first of the anime trilogy that we loved dearly and gave 10,000 stars.
That everyone's seen, I'm sure.
Yeah. But that movie, I had totally forgotten because I don't think about that trilogy very much. I'd forgotten the Dogora makes an appearance in it. And like, obviously, like, it's not a big deal. It's like a cameo thing. But like, the joy, I think, of the structure of this podcast and how we decided to start integrating the non-Godzilla films into it, like, which was not part of the original plan. That's something we kind of decided. It was actually, like, we've talked about this, but like Hamish basically slid into my DMs and was sort of like, are you going to cover Mothra and also this, and this? And I was like, I guess we could. And then sort of formulated this idea of like, if there is something that places that kaiju or that movie that a kaiju appears in or just a movie in general in Godzilla's larger universe or timeline in some way, whether that means like a Showa movie references another Showa movie, or a monster appears in one and then it's like
carcass.
referenced or appears as a carcass. Like it's kind of fun because that makes it harder for Doug to guess.
Yeah.
Like, is this actually a monster that's actually going to return in a significant capacity in a future movie? Or is it going to be like someone makes a reference to a character in a movie with another kaiju, or a monster appears as a carcass and that's why we watch Space Amoeba. A monster appears as a carcass in a movie like in 2002 and we watched that movie from 1970 that monster isn't even like the main monster in it. Like, yeah, it's just fun because it makes it a little less predictable, and it gives us a reason on the main feed to cover in depth a movie that's probably not that talked about like in the Godzilla sphere, because most Godzilla podcasts just cover the Godzilla movies, understandably. But Dogora was like the case where it's like, fuck, like by our fun rules and logic, Dogora we should have already covered it before we got to that fucking movie. And so and I think like nobody would have complained if we just like did our Patreon episode on it or whatever, but like we had space on the schedule this year, so it made sense to go ahead and finally cover it. And if you're wondering, like, Derek, there were 2 non-Godzilla movies you're covering over the next couple of months, Dogora, and then the other one's Gorath, but Gorath comes out before Dogora, and you've specifically said, and I will admit, it's not like the movie that comes directly after Gorath on our podcast is informed by it. It's just where I could fit Gorath. If you're wondering why we're doing a movie in 1964 before a movie from 1962, part 1 is that I made the schedule in kind of a daze when a lot of weird stuff was going on in my life. I didn't think about it. But part 2 is also Gorath is harder to watch. And I was going to do the art for it, and it gave me more time to do the art for it. And it also gave more time to track down a good copy of it. Dogora is right on the Criterion channel. Doug's doing great art for it that I have not seen yet. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be. And so that's why we're here. So if you're like, your chronology sucks, whatever, suck it, man. We do what we want. Just made life easier to do it this way. I don't know why this is the energy I'm bringing to our Dogora episode.
Well, okay, to be fair, I think talking about how we came to this point and how this movie came to be might be at points more interesting than talking about the movie itself.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that because originally this wasn't on our list of movies that we will do, Doug went ahead and watched it because you didn't think it was going to be a thing we'd ever officially be covering on our podcast. We always figured we'd cover it on like a Patreon episode or something, but not like an official episode. So this is the rare case on this podcast, on the main feed, where you have seen the movie and I have not. Which I think is really interesting. And you did kind of lightly warn me that it's like maybe not the best movie you'll ever see.
No, it's not exactly like delicious meat in the sandwich of the 3 movies that came out this year.
Good Lord. I know. It's like no wonder that this is not a movie that a lot of people remember.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I think it's interesting. I think it's great. Interesting premise. Maybe not the best execution. Okay. Let's talk about it though. So we're going back to the 60s, right? We've been living in the 70s for a while in Godzilla's world, but this is back in the 60s. This is during that time when Toho is generating a lot of just like, not just kaiju movies, but also just science fiction movies in general, right? So you have stuff like The Mysterians, Battle in Outer Space, the aforementioned Gorath. Those are all coming from science fiction writer Jojiro Okami. I think we talked about him a little more extensively in our Mysterians episode a while ago. So this is just another one of those stories that Okami is conceiving for Toho for their science fiction slate. At the time, it was called Space Mons. It would have been about an alien invasion of like strange giant space cells, but it would have been in like a futuristic setting. It would have been a future movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That got shelved at the time, I think just because they didn't think they'd have the budget to pull it off. But it gets revived just like a year or 2 later when Toho is trying to get a sequel to King Kong versus Godzilla off the ground, but it falls through. Obviously, there's a lot of weird rights stuff with Kong. So they decide to pull this treatment out and quickly get that into production. And it starts to change, obviously, and get reworked into what we end up seeing here. So Shinichi Sekizawa, at the first draft, I think immediately gets rid of the futuristic setting, sets it in the present day. At the time, it's called Earth Martial Law.
Oh.
Yeah, which is also an interesting title. I found conflicting info between like Ishiro Honda's biography and then like some other Japan produced books that I'll source in the the show notes and like just stuff that's generally on like Wikipedia and Wikizilla and stuff that I don't know is always properly sourced. Like,
Sure.
I'm not totally sure exactly what the timeline is, but I think the order of events is that there's a futuristic setting that's just about space cells that Okami writes or pitches. And then Shinichi Sekizawa makes this first draft of it that puts it in the present day, but still is exclusively just a science fiction movie. No gangster diamond heist stuff. Exclusively a science fiction movie that's just in the present day. The Honda book references it getting storyboarded, and I'm not sure exactly to what extent, but at the very least, I think some action scenes got storyboarded because they storyboarded scenes of like space cells attacking a space station in New York, like ripping necklaces off of rich ladies, which I think is really funny. But then also doing stuff like levitating a cruise ship and levitating the Golden Gate Bridge. So like it was going to be like a big world spanning alien invasion. Like here's the threat of these like cells that are levitating shit and like still steal like the element of like stealing carbon and stealing diamonds is always part of it, but it's just on a much larger scale and be built around these big set pieces. Right. And then in this story, like they just have Tokyo. Once it invades Tokyo, they have scientists discover they can use like beta rays to kill it or whatever. Whatever sci-fi solution at the end.
Sure.
But like it is fully a science fiction movie in the way that like the Mysterians is, right? However, obviously that ends up not being the movie that we get. So where do the gangsters come from?
Where do the gangsters come from?
So we talked about this way back in our Mothra versus Godzilla episode, because that movie also comes out in 1964, the same year as this one. We talked about in that episode that the early 60s was a time for like a lot of just general in Japan optimism, construction, and economic growth. Like the first significantly since like post-war times, right? The first since like World War II that it's like things are really on the uptick. There's a lot of urbanization. And so there end up being a lot of thoughts and feelings about that, right? But one of the other aspects of it is that, you know, according to like historical records and things like that, that economic growth also gave rise to like organized crime, which I don't think is uncommon for like rapid urbanization, right? So it's like to the point that criminologists refer to the time period of the early 50s to the early 60s in Japan to be, quote, a period of gang wars. Like that's how criminologists refer to this on their timeline. So it's a thing that becomes well known. Obviously, films start to reflect that. So you end up getting a lot of films about the Yakuza that are coming out in the early 60s. Like things, I mean, that movies that people are probably familiar with, right? That are coming out around the time. And so Toho filmmakers are sort of like, they often are kind of pulling from what film trends are and integrating them into their sci-fi or kaiju premises. So they're like, why don't we integrate this sort of Yakuza idea into one of our movies? So like Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, does have a little bit of that, but this movie goes full bore into making a movie about mobsters.
Yeah.
So it's in the air. So it kind of makes sense that it's going to get integrated into it. But I think like a big part of it is also that like, the budgets were going down at the time. Like we've talked a lot about that stuff in the 70s, but even before then, like Honda was kind of complaining about how it's just getting harder and harder to make these movies to secure the funds for them. So they don't have the funds to be doing these big science fiction pieces. So they end up having to integrate significantly having this gangster storyline to fill out time. So there are fewer set pieces, which Tsuburaya apparently complained about, like not being able to do all the effects he wanted. So that's how you kind of get this odd, like it changes from being a sci-fi film with a gangster subplot to being a gangster film and a caper
sci-fi
movie
backdrop
interrupted by sci-fi space monsters.
Yeah.
Which is a really, it's interesting because like, I don't hate that idea of like,
not at all.
What if it was a regular heist movie or a regular caper or a regular just like gangster movie that just happened to have sci-fi creatures interfere and interrupt them?
Well, this makes so much sense, right? When you think about like, I you know, it's whatever it is at the moment in 2026. But for a while, the MCU was talked about in that way, right? Where it's like, what if we told this kind of story that just happened to take place in a world where superheroes were real, right? That's kind of how the conversation was for like a minute with the MCU. And so like, if you think about it in that way, I do like this idea of having all kinds of stories that aren't necessarily about kaiju, but that happen in a world where kaiju could interrupt what is going on. And I think there's a cool exploration there from all different kinds of stories. But it's very, I mean, knowing all this makes a lot of sense because it wasn't conceived that way. It wasn't meant to be doing that from the jump. And I think the way that you put it, that I interrupted, of like, it's a gangster movie that gets interrupted by a monster story is better than how I described it, which is it's a gangster movie with the backdrop of a monster world. Because it's not a backdrop. It becomes the plot.
A lot. Right. And like a lot of there's portions of the movie where the sci-fi stuff is like not a factor in the gangster plot at all until it becomes a heavy factor in it. So it's like, it's weird. Like it's like even less of a backdrop because it doesn't necessarily influence what the gangsters are doing, like until it's literally like right there in front of them, which is fascinating to me. I think also like, Okami has said at a certain point that like on all of his other movies, he would be consulted on the story as the script was being written, even if they rework it. But in this case, like he didn't really have any part on it once it was reworked, which I also think maybe lends to this movie feeling a little bit weirdly disjointed, that like he probably came up with all of these ideas, but then couldn't flesh them out with the people who ended up writing the script. So
makes sense. Yeah.
And it, you know, it didn't do very well at the box office either, like to the point that it also like didn't really seem to have left much of an impression on the people who worked on it. Cause there's like an interview with Yosuke Natsuki, who plays the lead in this in 1996, who said he didn't even remember appearing in it.
Wow.
Like, yeah. Which is why.
Do we know how long the filming time was for this one? It had to be short, right?
Yeah.
Given the year it came out?
I think that Robert Dunham said it was like 6 to 8 weeks. So.
Oh, okay. That's kind of longer than I would have expected.
Yeah. But he could have been misremembering.
Still.
There's also a lot of unattributed quotes to him. Like, I don't know where they came from.
Interesting.
So who knows if that's where that came from. I don't
Sure.
Like if you go on the Wikipedia page for this, like there is some stuff that's sourced. There is some stuff that is absolutely not sourced from anywhere. And I have no idea where this information is coming from. So yeah. So I try not to just parrot hearsay, but also this is not like a lot of them that's as extensively talked about as some of the other ones. Even in Honda's biography, like it's a part of the section, but like it's literally couched between Mothra versus Godzilla and Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, the same year. Of course, people are not going to be talking that in depth about fucking Dogora, you know?
Right. No, totally. And the little bit that I do know about this, I think, is the idea that there is a bunch of potential that just wasn't reached for production reasons, right? Like there are things that, I mean, you already alluded to Subaraya, but like things that they could have done or wanted to do that they either couldn't do or that got messed up. So like it's not even considering all of the changes that were made, it sounds like the movie they wanted to make isn't even the movie that came out, or the movie that came out isn't even truly the movie they wanted to make.
Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't, I don't think it was a bad time making it, but it doesn't seem like this is anybody's favorite movie, even from the people who made it. So, you know,
it's strange.
Speaking of strange, like the actual kaiju that's in the movie, the titular Dogora.
Yeah.
I do think that's the draw of this movie. If there's any reason to watch it, even though there's not a lot of Dogora in it, the little that you get of Dogora and even like the Cells version of him and stuff like that, or it is like, that is kind of the draw of this. Cause that it does look like nothing else you've seen in any other Toho kaiju movie.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I think that's the big draw. I would also throw in not quite as big a draw. I do think the Robert Dunham and what's the other lead actor?
Yosuke Natsuki.
Yeah, I do think they are fun to watch together, but it's not a huge piece of the movie, so it's not as big a draw as the monster. The monster's so weird, and it's such a cool idea, and it's a cool, the way they want to use it is really cool, and I think you could do really interesting things with Dogora or a Dogora-like monster, but I just wish, it's weird. I wish there was more of it, but for this movie, you'd have to, for there to be more Dogora, the movie needs to be about Dogora. And I think one of the things that's interesting about this movie is that it isn't really about Dogora, or it isn't for a big piece of it. So
I don't know what I don't know what the fix is for this movie to make it work better, because
probably to have two different movies.
but again, I do like the idea of, like, what if there was a gangster movie and then suddenly there were space aliens that they had to deal with? But I think you do have to, it's just an imbalance. That's the thing, is I think if this movie was like fundamentally broken, it would be easier to figure out what you tweak. It's just, I really just think it's just the balance of it. And I think maybe the tone of the gangster stuff is a little bit off too, which we can talk about later.
Here's a question for you, and maybe it's premature to ask this because we haven't even talked about the movie yet, but like, would Dogora work better as a TV show? Like if this were an anime about these gangsters, or if it were an anime about this like world-threatening event and it told stories with that as the backdrop, does that make this make more sense or feel better? Does it give it like breathing room?
I do still think it would have to be pretty different, but I do think that there are a lot of characters in this movie. It's a big ensemble movie. And you could go even harder on that by having like a ton of gangsters with really distinct, even if just like kind of broad personalities that you play with, and you would have more room to play with that kind of stuff and like make some of the human stories like feel more impactful, I think, because there's like a whole betrayal like aspect of the gangster plot that I think could work a lot better if more time was given to it. But I wouldn't ask to give more time to it in this movie, but in a TV show, you could see those types of things unfold more.
What if you had a 13 episode anime that was way heavier on the mystery of what's going on?
Sure.
Because this movie at a point is presented like a mystery, but the mystery is really not.
Yeah. Well, I think that version of it is that it's more of an ensemble piece in that it's not just scientists figuring out the monster and then gangsters. It's more like different parties that are intercepting with this monster or this strange space force, and gangsters are just one of the elements of it that are in here. Because I do think if you're having a creature that's going to be like feeding on diamonds, it totally makes sense to have like some sort of diamond heist story related to it. You know, so I totally see the logic for integrating that. It's just, you know.
It feels like this would be like one episode of something, like you said, it has to be totally different. There could be a really interesting, fun heist episode that's just not really the same as the rest of the show, that just like explores this specific group of people in this setting during this weird world event or whatever. But I do think you're right though. Like I think one of the things that makes this a weird movie to watch and a weird movie to figure out is that the fix isn't obvious. Like there just isn't it really is kind of a Jenga tower more than some of the other movies that we've talked about that aren't necessarily reaching their potential or aren't super great. This is like I move one piece and other things fall apart.
Yeah, I was trying to today. I was trying to describe it to Chris, who if you were on our Patreon, you would have heard him on our Zone Fighter episode just like a week ago, and he was on our Space Movie episode of the main feed. But like I was trying to explain it because it's like I don't want to not recommend the movie to someone, but I do think it needs a little bit of an asterisk of like, I don't know that you're going to fully enjoy this movie, but it's worth watching because there are enough really interesting elements of it that are really cool. And as a whole, it's not a bad time, but it's also never reaches like the heights that I think it should, because you're always a little bit like, it's always just a little bit off kilter of where you're supposed to, I don't know, where you're supposed to be like emotionally or whatever. I don't know.
I think you could easily argue that there are no real like hell yeah moments in this movie. I would argue there's like one and it's totally a special effect, but like,
okay, sure.
I don't think there's really anything where you're like, whoa, or hell yeah, or holy shit. Like there's none of that.
Yeah. I think but again, the monster is the draw. I want to talk about Dogora, the creature, a little bit. So you see Dogora in a couple of forms for a long time, longer than I would have ever expected. You just see the single-celled form of Dogora in this movie, and I was sort of like, when are we going to get to the jellyfish? I want the jellyfish! And then he's there for like 4 seconds, and it's like, that was cool. But
that's how they kept you sitting there.
truly. The single-celled form, though, I do think it's cool how eerie it is to have these sort of just like creepy little, like literally just like balls that are just cells just floating around. They apparently created it by sandwiching liquid organic glass between plates of solid glass, which was then synthesized into the live action footage. Can you explain to me what that means? I'm not exactly sure.
I know there's one part of it I'm really confused by. I understand the idea of liquid glass, and I understand the idea of solid glass, and I understand that they took something and just smashed it between two transparent surfaces, which is why it ends up being this weird sort of blob shape. What is organic glass?
That's
what does that mean?
No, and I wonder if that's a typo. Organic glass. Wait, no, that's a real thing.
Is it like a living thing, or is it just like glass that like occurs? Does it literally just mean glass that occurs naturally versus maybe, what we make?
Yeah, like the difference between organic glass and synthetic glass, I think. Organic glass is a kind of... Wait, what? Organic glass is a kind of artificial synthetic. Okay, I think that's probably wrong. Let me look at a different one. You can't just say that. What? What? Okay, everything's saying organic glass is a fully synthetic plastic material. What are you talking about? That's the opposite of organic.
Did somebody just do an obnoxious thing and invent a substance and call it organic glass? Because maybe that's all it is. Because I'm seeing similar stuff that says it's like a lightweight, durable. It's like a
plastic. Apparently.
And I'm guessing that the plastic refers more to the fact that it actually is like pliable or like can be smushed as opposed to like a pane of glass, like solid glass. So that's annoying. I hate that they called it organic glass if it's not. That's annoying.
Furious.
But I think like the way I'm envisioning it though is like if you took like a weird like, I don't know, like slime substance and just smashed it between two panes of glass, and that's like what you were filming, so that it had like weird, like unexpected shapes or had weird movements you wouldn't necessarily expect, which I do think is a cool way to make something that doesn't quite feel of this world, you know?
It does look cool. It genuinely looks cool.
If you're trying to make an amoeba that you can see with the human eye, this is not a terrible way to go about that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. When they try to make them crystallize, they apparently just attached a light bulb to a 15 centimeter polyvinyl chloride miniature. And then they sent an electrical current through the bulb through piano wire, causing it to illuminate and giving the effect of the miniature flashing and emitting light. Is
that like when they're on the beach and they're like glowing?
I think so.
There are cool effects that they do with it, like particularly on the beach. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's all I have, like effects wise, for the single celled part of it.
I like that they are explicitly single celled organisms, but that we are able to like perceive with our eyes. Like that feels so alien to me. I know that there are technically single celled organisms on our planet that you can see with your eyes, but these are not presented that way. These aren't presented like some sort of sea creature. They're meant to look like a cell under a microscope.
Right. I think and there is something very creepy about that, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I do think if the movie had been a little bit less broad, I leaned more into the horror aspect of it and tried to make it a little scarier, which I do think they could have done at this time.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
I think that you could have really, between the cells and what Dogora looks like in the sky, I think that it could be a really freaky movie that could have like given kids nightmares.
For sure.
And it maybe still did, but I think there's so much of just like almost kind of comical gangster stuff happening around it that it kind of
there could have been like comical stuff with the gangsters as a result of it being genuinely scary, because gangsters you assume are going to be a little bit more macho or have this sort of like performed sort of masculinity or stoicism to them, and for them to be in these genuinely scary situations could both be genuinely scary and a little bit silly for them. So like you could have done it, but I don't think they pull it off.
Yeah, these gangsters keep interrupting my conversation about kaiju right now. You keep veering away from the fucking the cool monster to complain about the fucking gangsters. 80% so hard,
of this movie is gangsters.
That's what's weird about it. And yet it's got one of like the wildest like creature effects I've ever seen. Okay, so Dogora itself, like, so the design of it, like originally, I think conceptually, they were thinking of like a protozoa, like where you can see some protozoa that have like kind of almost tendrily tentacle type things. And so it kind of makes sense that eventually that would kind of evolve into like a jellyfish type of look. Jellyfish, almost like jellyfish, a little bit octopus too. I think I think Turkey in the title like calls it like a space octopus, I think, like in their title. Like I can sort of see how you would see that in this, right? The prop itself is just cool as shit. I'll go through some of the stuff about it that we can talk about how it actually looks, but like apparently it was a hard prop to create. Obviously, this is not a man in a suit kaiju is what makes this so distinct. It literally is a prop. When I watched this, I was like, did they just find like a really cool looking jellyfish and just film it and superimpose it? No, that is a prop, but that's how like good it looks, that it looks like authentically like a sea creature of some kind swimming in the sky, which is so fucking cool. But it was really hard to do it. There's a lot of trial and error. Apparently they really like, they obviously had a plan to an extent, but like the plan, nothing they planned worked. They had to really figure this out as they went along to see what it would look like, because they'd never done anything like this before, especially like the people who'd been working on Toho kaiju stuff. Like they hadn't done shit like this. So they were looking at using soft vinyl, apparently, which had just kind of pretty recently become really available on the market. It was expensive to get that mold, but they felt like that would be the only way they could really get the effect and be able to like sort of move the creature in the way that they wanted it to. So they created this sort of like 1 foot soft vinyl miniature for Dogora. They were worried about operating it with like piano wire, like they would expect to do, and how they would do like pretty much any other kaiju. So that's when they came up with the idea of, instead of just using piano wire in the sky, they would actually put the prop in a tank of water and then use fishing line to manipulate it in the water. So that's why it does have this eerie effect of looking like it's swimming in a tank like a jellyfish actually would, but in the sky.
It rules. It's so effective. It's so effective because there's not a way outside of water to like mimic what jellyfish tendrils look like and the way that they move in space, you know, like,
yeah,
it's just like, it's sort of like trying to, I mean, I guess animators have gotten pretty good at it, but it's like trying to recreate the effect that like hair underwater has.
That's always like when you hear about like behind the scenes on like the Little Mermaid, that was something they struggled with so much, was to figure out how to make that like authentically look good. And it was like a big deal that they pulled it off in that movie.
Yeah. And for them to do this is like pretty brilliant, to say like, well, if we want it to look like it's moving in water, let's put it in water. Like as long as we can figure out how to make it, the water quote invisible in the final effect of the movie, then like, cool, here we go, we've got the movement.
Yeah I think they use fishing line. They also use like they use like a fixed valve to like change the water flow as well with it. I think that there's times when you watch the movie that you might even see like bubbles in the sky because they couldn't avoid that from like the water tank. I think there was also a point when like they had trouble keeping the tank like clear sometimes when they were filming it. Like there was like one day at least where the water that they had was like kind of white and cloudy. And so like they couldn't really shoot that much of it. And I think that also kind of lended to like why it's in here so minimally, is that it was just hard to shoot it anyway. And like the water would have to be crystal clear in order to get like a good shot to superimpose it. And if you have a day where the water is kind of cloudy, you're not getting a lot of useful footage, and they're already, you know, shooting these on pretty quick timelines usually. So like, I think eventually like they just kind of had to call it and be like, this is how much footage that we can get that looks good. We're just going to only use this version of Dogora this amount of time, just because, and we're not going to try even, you know, we're not going to try to extend it beyond that.
It's the biggest, I don't want to say failure. That doesn't feel fair.
It's like, not fair to them because they were working under constraints, obviously.
Right. It's the biggest shortcoming for this movie, right? Like you can, it feels like they want to show this thing off more. Yeah. And it's not hard to find out that they couldn't do it more. The reason you don't see it more is they literally can't do it. Which is a bummer. And I'm sure probably the most frustrating thing ever for like special effects people to be like, we literally can't do this more. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, again, I know Tsuburaya like complained about not being able to do cooler stuff with this movie. And I get it. You know, there really is only one really significant like set piece where it is, you see the Dogora jellyfish in the sky and it destroys a bridge and it looks fucking incredible.
Yeah.
But there's like anything else in this movie does not even remotely stack up to that at all. And it's I agree with you. It's a real shortcoming of this movie. And it's I know it's like annoying to complain about that because everyone complains that there's not enough monster in their monster movie. But like, this is a case where
they literally couldn't, like they wanted more.
Right. And you feel that in the movie, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about the creature design wise and execution wise at this point?
I don't think so. I just think it's cool. I just think it's really cool.
It's really
and I think it's really wild for them at this point. And I know why, there's a million reasons why, but for at this point, them to decide to do a kaiju that has no suit actor be the main monster of your movie.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is because I don't know that they were thinking of this as a kaiju movie so much. Like, they're thinking like more like with Mysterians, where like if there's something giant in it, it's like secondary to the sci-fi plot, not the focus.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think that's also probably gets them to be more creative with it. But the downside is that like that is kind of the coolest part of this movie. Like Mysterians is cool even if Mogera isn't part of it. Mogera is just sort of like a bonus to that. This movie, you lose Dogora and it's like you just have a gangster movie, which is cool, but if you're coming for a sci-fi movie, it's not really delivering on that.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, wait, I guess there is one more thing about the monster. There are times where it's drawn onto the screen.
Oh yeah, yes. Speak on that. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's obviously, I think, not what you want, and I bet it's not what they wanted either, but I think it when they do it, it's like for the sake of another effect they're trying to pull off. So like you mentioned the bridge scene, like you see, I'm sure they wanted to figure out how to make one of those practical tendrils slip around the bridge, and they just couldn't do it. So I mean,
it's an animated tentacle.
Right. So I appreciate
I
them
love it.
saying,
I think it's
like,
cool seeing it, and it looks really neat, but it is a little bit, it is a bummer in a movie that has this great like practical effect, seeing them not be able to utilize that in the way that I'm sure they want.
That's the thing is like, it looks fine if you didn't know they had this other effect. It's like, it's a reminder that they couldn't pull things off, which is a bummer. Even if the effect that is, I think, the coolest moment of the movie is done with the animation.
Right. Yeah. I do. That whole sequence is really cool. Like, don't get me wrong. I do think the animation looks really, really good. And I like seeing that stuff. And I do think that there is something just so uniquely cool and scary and weird about just like a tentacled creature floating in the sky, and it's just tendrils just wrap around things and rip them apart because it's mad.
You know what's funny is the reason we're even watching and talking about this is because of the anime trilogy, and the anime trilogy's version of Ghidorah is this sort of like unknowable tentacle creature.
Yeah.
And like there's a world where this could have been more like that. Or that could have been more like this, like because of the restrictions, because of how little you can really show Dogora, it does end up being these tentacles coming out of the sky that just fuck shit up, and you're like, what the hell? Like,
yeah, right. Yeah. I like that. Again, I really like that I like that aspect of it. That's every time there's something I like in this movie, it's something I fucking think is cool as hell.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, let's get to the gangsters and the people who chase them. So Yusuke Natsuki is Inspector Komai. He's kind of our young lead. We've seen him on our podcast before. He was Detective Shindo in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and he also showed up in Return of Godzilla as well. So we have seen him. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to say it now. Basically everyone in this movie, except for maybe like one person, has been someone that we have covered in depth, actually, at one point or another.
Here's a question for you. When I asked, who are you expecting to see from our regular crew, was Robert Dunham one of the names you had in mind?
Which is funny because I'm positive I talked about him on our Megalon episode. I'm sure, like, talked about him being in Dogora. Zero memory of ever mentioning that. I don't know. I just expected I was never going to see him again, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I was actually a little shook when he fucking rolls up in his swanky ass suit. And I was like, oh, fuck, man, you're here. Okay, okay.
Because it's kind of a dumb question to ask at this point, but Robert Dunham is not the expected answer. So I was delighted when I saw him. And I forgot when I was rewatching this. I was like, oh, shit, that's right. This is another like Robert Dunham like lead moment. Like,
and it's funny because he's younger in this. Like he had done some stuff before this movie, but this is the first time he gets like a major role in a movie, and he is all over this movie. And he, I think, he's a little more in his daddy era by the time you get to Megalon. He's not showing off the body hair and the chest hair in this movie. He's a little too clean shaven for my taste, but I like him in this. He's really fun. He's really, really fun.
He's really fun. And he's like really like, Same. I want him to be in the toga, but he's very handsome. He's like very sharp in this movie. Like as far as like your typical like leading men of this era, I wouldn't normally consider him one of them, but in this movie he's very sharp.
Yeah. This is the thing. This is one of the things I was thinking of when I said that there's like unsubstantiated stuff on the Wikipedia page. There's an interview. There's an interview with him, or there is mentioned an interview with him on just the Wikipedia page that just has nary a citation. So I don't know where this actually comes from. And I did, I mean, I didn't spend a ton of time looking for it because I'm sure there's some sort of interview with him out there, but I don't know if this is misconstruing anything he said or not, because it's all a paraphrase, not a direct quote. But it is funny if this feels fake. So just to be clear, audience, this feels fake to me. But it is so funny and weird that it's on the Wikipedia page for this that I would like to bring it up anyway. But allegedly, according to Wikipedia, there's an unsourced interview with him where allegedly Robert Dunham said that Toho was really excited about his Mark Jackson character in this movie, that they wanted him to appear in multiple films and a series of films, and actually was trying to like negotiate with Hollywood to get a distribution deal for Dogora to like really spark interest in him as a character, to like, really, really spark this off, but then Dogora underperforms. And so it doesn't happen. He also says that according to this, that he felt like he was given a lowball offer for Dogora, given that they wanted to have this whole plan for him because he wasn't a named actor. And he feels like Nick Adams getting brought on board for stuff is like basically getting the idea with Robert Dunham, but doing it with an actual established actor. So, I want to live in that reality.
The Mark Jackson of it all. I mean, just the fact that his name is only Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson.
And they say Mark Jackson like approximately 800 times in this movie. It so like funny. Ends up being like one of the most iconic things about this movie is just the existence of a main character named Mark Jackson, who is always referred to as Mark Jackson.
It's funny though, because how do you get a series of movies with this character when he's established as being just like a diamond insurance guy in this, who just behaves like a secret agent for some reason?
I think you have secret agent movies with him. I think that's all it is. He's sort of like, in the way that like Indiana Jones is an archaeologist, I think he is a diamond insurance guy.
Or it's like every movie like that, like he just like he's a for hire mercenary guy. So in this case, he's working for the diamond insurance industry, but in another movie he's working for a pharmaceutical industry or something like that. Like he's always working for some different industry doing some stuff. I love that. Yeah, again, I don't know if any of this is true. I don't know what interview this is.
I don't care. It's true in my
heart,
but
I would like to believe it. I would like to believe that
it's true in my heart, because I just want to imagine the reality where there's like a series of movies called Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson.
Amazing.
Anyway, he's in this. He's a fun. I think out of all the people stuff, he's one of the most. He's probably the most fun part of it.
I think he's the most fun. I think he's having the most fun of everybody on set for sure.
Clearly,
I think that he and like Mark Jackson and Inspector Komai in a better movie are the movie. Like you know what I mean? Like
I like the sort
idea.
Of it's like a catch. Like a cat and mouse, catch me if you can kind of thing with them.
Absolutely. It almost feels like Komai would need to be in that series of Mark Jackson movies, you know?
Yeah, like he's constantly about to catch him, but like I like the idea that they're always just like hanging out together and talking, and it's like Mark Jackson knows that Komai is pursuing him, but it's like, but I know you ain't got nothing on me, man. So like we'll have a drink. We'll have a drink together. It's fine. And then like the second that Komai is like, onto him, then Jackson's like 2 steps ahead of him.
Yes.
Like I think that's really cool.
And their dynamic is so cute. Like they end up, like Mark Jackson does like a trick, and then Inspector Komai like does the same trick but with a twist. Like the whole shoe thing, and then like Inspector Komai like popping his head down like from the scene, like in Mark Jackson's hotel room.
Oh my god, it's so silly.
There's so much fun you could have with these 2 characters if the movie were about them,
Yeah, I just fucking love. Oh my god, I love how fucking smarmy he is, because it's like I think the most successful aspect of the whole gangster stuff in this movie is just the arc of, you think that Mark Jackson is a criminal of some kind. At first it's like, I guess he's a gangster. Oh, I guess he's a rival gangster. Oh, I guess he's a diamond thief. Then it's like, no, I work in insurance for diamonds and I want to get my diamonds back from my diamond company. And like the fact that he pulls all of that over, but yet he doesn't act like an insurance man. He's like, I'm just a G-man, but I'm like, you just act like a secret agent at all times. There's like a point when like the cops are interrogating him. They're like, why do you have like a second like secret passport? And he's like, I don't know. Isn't that popular in Japan? Ninja? Y'all like ninjas, right? Like,
he's
like what are you talking about?
He's an insurance guy. This movie is full of gangsters, and he's like the scoundreliest one. Like,
he's like a rogue. He's like a rogue the entire time. It's so funny. It's such a funny concept, and then it's like really rewarding when like when Space Invaders start happening. He's not like trying. He'll work with Komai and shit like that.
Sure,
if they're both tied up, they will save each other. He never betrays him, but it's also because I think he also has the security of sort of like, no matter what I do, you're never going to catch me. Whether I'm doing anything wrong or not, I'm always going to be 2 steps ahead of you, no matter what. It doesn't matter.
Their dynamic is exactly the dynamic that's like, everybody will write the fanfic about them, but the movies are never actually like these 2 are not in love with each other, but everyone will say they're in love with each other. You know what I mean? Like, right. And I love it that way. I think they're fun that way. I think it's so much fun.
Yeah,
I want to see the movie that's about them so bad.
Isn't there a point when he like swaps his gun with confetti? Like Mark Jackson swaps Komai's gun with a gun.
He pulls a gun out of a shelf.
Confetti.
Right, he pulls a gun out of like a drawer, and then like gives it to Komai, who thinks he's going to use it on Mark Jackson, but obviously Mark knows it's not real, so he just like walks away like all cute scoundrelly and then gets confetti shot out of it. It's like so funny.
Yeah,
they're just, whoever was writing those 2 and who was ever thinking up their antics specifically really got them, at least.
Yes. Here's what I think maybe would improve this movie a bit is that stuff works so effectively and it's so much fun to see their dynamic. Mm-hmm. I think then the gangsters need to be more serious then, because I think the gangsters are too broad and often too funny.
Sure.
Except in moments when then you kind of want to take them seriously, when you're supposed to take things seriously at the end. For the most part, it's all played kind of comical. And I think then that makes the entire plot seem kind of comical across the board, when I kind of think it'll be better balanced if the gangsters were actually pretty serious bad guys. You have this fun sort of weird spy plot, cat and mouse plot happening around it that intersects with them, but then it's sort of like, oh shit, these guys are like the real deal, a real threat, they're really dangerous, but then all of that danger gets thrown out the window when fucking space monsters attack,
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think putting some of those regular actors into the gangster spots might have been a mistake, because you have people like like I think Yoshifumi Tajima is one of them, who's always like upset with like the mousy guy whose name I'm looking up because I can never remember it.
Hideo Yamamoto, right?
I'm thinking of Haria Kato.
Okay, never mind.
Who's like the tiny guy who's like scared all the time.
Hideo Yamamoto is a skinny guy. Is a skinny, also kind of mousy guy, right? Or am I confusing him with someone
No,
else?
you might be thinking of that guy. He's like he like laughs when he's not supposed to and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing is like these guys show up in all these movies to have like these small moments that are like kind of memorable in their moment, but these guys shouldn't be memorable for the things they're memorable for, right? Like there shouldn't be like a small guy, big guy comedy duo happening during the bank heist. Like that's not like who they should be.
It sucks as you say that. I'm sort of like, that does sound kind of cute and fun though, but it's like
But that's the thing. It's the Jenga, right? Like something's got to give.
Yeah. Like that. Right. If it was a whole hog like gangster comedy movie, it would work. But this movie does want you to take it seriously and be scary at certain points. So I think these guys needed to be, tempered a bit. Like there's points when they're doing their fucking jewel heist and the levitation starts. And I think the levitations movie is very silly. I don't think I ever like when people get levitated in it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't think so. Because I think that the Dogora stuff should be scary and off-putting. And every time they levitate a person, it's just silly and funny. And they play it for comedy. And I think that's always a mistake with them. And then when you double that with these guys being cartoon characters half the time, it just feels like a comedy skit. And I'm like, if this movie was a full-on comedy, cool, fine. I don't mind the idea of like a comedy about gangsters and then space monsters mess up their gangstering. But this movie is supposed to be taken seriously at a certain point. So that it ends up feeling just too broad and cartoony. And so I can't take any of the monster stuff seriously, even when it's like good and scary,
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think I like the idea of the levitation more than I think the actual execution of the levitation. Because you're right. Most of the time it is played for comedy. But there is that eerie moment that I think is cut by comedy. The eerie moment where the guy is like floating through the street. Like there are moments where things...
That was so stupid. I didn't
really
like that at all. No.
Oh, I thought it was good until they sort of like drop him. Like I think the idea of... Because I like the idea of the mystery of this movie, even if the movie isn't necessarily playing up the mystery. So I like the idea of these like weird like strange inexplicable things happening, but I do think it's hard to pull those things off clearly without it coming across as silly, even if whether the floating guy was supposed to be, because the people are freaked out by him floating, like the people in the universe are supposed to be freaked out, but I do think the audience is probably supposed to laugh by the end of that moment.
I don't know, I can see a world where the levitation is creepy, but I think it's ever used well in this.
I think that's fair. I wish they got it right, though, because so much of what Dogora is doing is reliant on picking things up without touching them.
Sure,
right? Like,
I do
so
think that
much
aspect
of
it
is
is cool.
I think that's why I like the idea of it, at least.
Yeah, because I do like when they'll just be sitting in scenes and then out of nowhere, like a rock from like their backyard just floats into the sky. There is something viscerally scary about that.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. No,
I like the way you put it. Like the people that the scary things are happening to are cartoon characters, which doesn't make
so
things
it's not scary. It's just like it's just feels like slapstick.
That's Scooby-Doo, right,
right, Scooby-Doo. I love Scooby-Doo, but this movie isn't trying to be Scooby-Doo.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
I was thrilled to see Akiko Wakabayashi again, because I think she's one of the few women that we get to see multiple times in this era, and she is one, stunning, and two, always like mesmerizing, so like good. Regardless of what she's doing, and she, as a result of being like the only woman in this movie, does get to do some cool stuff. At least
she does. She gets to be like a femme fatale type.
I guess
figure.
There's two. There's like the good girl, like the good girl and the bad girl.
Well, one of them gets more to do than the other. Like the other
Truly,
one's Yoko Fujiyama is the love interest. We've seen her in Atragon. I think she gets many better things to do in Atragon than this movie. Yeah. I don't even remember what she really does other than just be.
She has a brother.
She's the secretary of a scientist, and she's the sister of a brother. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So much that I forgot there was more than one woman in this movie.
Oh, right. Exactly. Yikes. But at least, Akiko Wakabayashi does get cool stuff because she gets the whole betrayal story of this, where she's like just the cool sexy lady gangster, but then she wants to take it all for herself and then gets gunned down at the end, which is fucking wild.
Truly,
she's the one I'm thinking of where it's like, if we were to expand this into a television series, I think her story would be much more effective if you really got to see it, because I don't know,
because you could get into why she does any of the stuff she does.
That's the thing, is I'm kind of like, did I miss something, or does it kind of feel like a little bit out of nowhere that she is just like, I'm just going to betray everyone now. Like it just kind of happens, I guess. And I think that's a little bit of a bummer, because I do like the idea of like having her, like, I think that there is something really poignant and insightful about like having a story about these like diamond thieves who are in the midst of this like world threatening catastrophe, who are still so selfish and so, money driven, that it's like, but I'm still going to risk my life to steal these diamonds for myself. Diamonds. Yeah. You know, I love that idea. And so I like that aspect of it, but there's so little of it for her. It kind of just feels like very much towards the end of the story that it's like, where'd the diamonds go? Oh no, she stole them, you know, and then it didn't matter. And the fact that it doesn't matter in the end anyway, because they were always fakes that she had all along. So she basically died for nothing. I think that's beautiful Twilight Zone, like dark storytelling that I love. I love that. But I wish there was more build up for her to get to that point to make that decision, you know?
Right. Well, because there's another, there's so many versions of this movie, right? That's part of the problem. Like there's another version of the movie that is just about her. And that is the point of the movie, is that she is built up to do this thing that ends up being pointless. I don't know. I've never really come to a conclusion on like what this movie is saying. Do you know what I mean? Like,
honestly, I hadn't even given a thought what this movie is saying about anything.
The only reason I thought about it is because I feel like the movies we talk about at this time usually have something pretty easy to pull from them to say, like, whether it was meant to say this or not, this movie is saying this. You know what I mean?
Like about pollution, or it's about urbanization or something like that. Like,
yeah. And the closest I've come to what this movie is saying, which I can't assert is the truth. Like I can't assert it's meant to do this or that it does it well if it is trying, is the idea that people, and this is bleak, but like that people will like do greedy things and selfish things even in the face of these like catastrophic events, right? Like, and I do think there is an interesting story you could tell with that. I think mentioning the Twilight Zone of it all, of having this character who like ingratiates herself with these gangsters and then tries to betray them for whatever reason. I mean, you could build that up to be a really like compelling like sympathetic reason, but ultimately gets gunned down and you learn that they're fake, and she was doing all this at the same time the world is trying not to end. Like there's something really, really interesting there, and there's so much to say in that type of
Rod
story.
Sterling walking on screen and like giving his, you know, summary and conclusion in maybe a kind of a sarcastic kind of way about you know, how some people make these bad choices even in the face of incredible catastrophe will still make the selfish choice in the end. And this is what you get from it. This is how little it ultimately matters for you when you do these choices.
Right. And so I think there's, you know, the closest I think this gets to, or the closest I get to seeing this saying something, is that idea, right? Of like, it's not, your greed is not worth it ultimately.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I guess that's what this is, because the greedy people kind of all get fucked over. But like,
he gets squashed
I don't know.
He gets squashed when a rock falls on him, and
but
the most Looney Tunes-esque death I've ever seen in my life in one of these movies.
True. But it doesn't feel like that's what these characters represent. You know what I mean?
No. And like
but we don't know enough about them for them to represent that. The
diamond insurance guy like gets off, like, has a great time and gets everything for him. You know what I mean?
Well, he's in a different movie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if we're making the best version of these two characters, if you just look at Mark Jackson and you look at Natsui, who is Akiko Wakabayashi's character, like if you make both of them the best versions of themselves, they're just probably not in the same movie. They might be in the same TV show, but I don't know. Sure. It's interesting.
It is really interesting. I don't have much to say about this guy, but I want to point him out because it's like, this is like one of the only actors that we haven't seen in a bunch of movies. We've only seen him in a couple of them. Nobuo Nakamura plays Dr. Munakata. He's the scientist guy in this movie. He's stage actor, appeared in a bunch of Kurosawa movies. He had a minor role in Frankenstein versus Baragon, and he played Dr. Kita in War of the Gargantua. So I don't remember if we talked about him there. I don't remember how large that role is. But he was only in his 40s when he made this movie.
No, he's not. What? Are you serious?
Let me double check this. Let's see.
That man saw a lot of life by the point he made this movie, whether he's that age or not. Like, this man
1964 minus 190. Oh no, I'm sorry. He was 56. I lied.
Oh, thank God. Oh my God. I was like, what hope do any of us have? That guy was in his 40s.
I think I was looking at the years active, not his actual birth date. Never mind. 56. I still think he looks a little rough. Like, I think they put him
he looks older.
I think they put him in some makeup, I think, for this.
I think he's meant to feel old.
Yeah.
Like I think he's meant to
Yeah.
feel older than 56 or whatever you said he was.
Yeah, he's 56. My bad. I'm not going to cut that out because I think it's funny that we almost had that crisis.
I will say, like, sometimes it wouldn't have been. I mean, I would have been shocked, and I would have continued to have that.
But
crisis.
He does look like he's like 70 or 80.
He does look like he's 70. Like the other thing too, though, is like if you told me that some of these other characters were in their early 30s when they filmed this, I would be like, how? And then be like, I guess, like that happens with these movies. You know what I mean?
Period. Yeah.
Like if you told me that Seizaburo Kawazu, who plays the boss, if you told me he was like 34 in this movie, I'd be like, no way. And then think about it and be like, yeah, I guess.
That's like the funny thing where even if you watch just like TV shows from the 90s, not that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that was 30 plus years ago now, but like that's not as old as these are. People age differently even then, and it's just like, wait, what do you mean? Like, how old was Jason Alexander when he was doing Seinfeld?
Oh my god, we can't do Seinfeld. But like Robert Dunham is probably younger than I am when he's filming this movie. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't actually know, but I'm guessing he's younger than 40 when he's doing this. I'm guessing he's in his 30s.
He was born in 1931. So
yeah, and this was
64. 33 years old. Oh,
right. That God. Man, I would not assume is younger than I am. But when I think about it, and I think about the time, I'm like, yeah, I guess so. You know, so
wowie. I mean, that's stuff. I mean, I think at this point people probably get annoyed about that because everybody says that about like old TV shows and stuff now. But it is wild how different.
I think it's interesting.
I think it's fascinating how differently people aged up until like, you know, how differently people age based on the time period that they're in, and how like differently people age now, even compared to just like 20 to 30 years ago. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then you've got our guy Hiroshi Koizumi, who's criminally underutilized in this movie. Dude,
I know. I was because he's the only one that I guessed was in this.
Right.
Because this would have been the right time, and he's always hot. He's always looking hot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, why like he's barely doing anything? Like why?
It's another situation with him that we run into with like Kenji Sahara, where it's like, I'm not mad you're in this movie, but why are you in this movie?
Yeah, right. He just was literally on the lot, and they have him under contract to do a bunch of movies.
Right.
They're just like, say some lines and then leave.
I know. It's like a weird thing to like wrap my head around, where it's like, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just not how I think of people
it's so weird.
ending up in movies anymore. Because it's not really how people end up in movies anymore. But he's hot when he's here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's part of the group that's like figuring out Dogora. So
yeah. Sure. Any other people to call out? There's lots of them in here, but like and so everyone in this movie we've seen before, but like nobody. I mean, a lot of them are just kind of bit roles or don't have a lot to do. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's a murderer's row of all the people you see in the background of every other movie. Jun Tazaki is here. Yeah. I already mentioned Yoshifumi Tajima. The mousy guy Haruya Kato. Like it's literally everybody you see in the background of every movie at this time.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. What else do you want to talk about for this? I don't know.
I mean, we've like it's just the thing that's a bummer is like, I'm glad we're talking about this movie because I think there's fascinating stuff about the movie. It's just like not that interesting of a movie to talk about when you talk about the story in the movie. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I agree.
There's a little too much like back and forth. There's a little bit too much of like, I think you might have said this early on where it's sort of like, okay, well, we don't have enough monster stuff. So we got to like fill out and expand the gangster story. And it's like, I just don't need that much chasing or that many heists or that many, you know, things going on with them.
Yeah. And even when they dip into like the scientists trying to solve the science problem stuff, a lot of that.
Oh, we have to talk about that.
Like there's like,
do you remember what the solution is?
It's wasp toxin, of course. Where the fuck did they come up with that?
So I don't know where they came up with it, like outside of the movie. Like, right. I don't know if there's some sort of basis for that or if there was like exciting science being done with like insect venoms or toxins or something at the time.
I could see that.
It's really a wild thing. When you're watching the movie, they don't spend that long before they like reveal to you what's going on. Like, it's funny. There's more gangster stuff than I necessarily want. but I also feel like the mystery is not a mystery because they tell you, oh, we figured out the monster and this is what it wants and all that sort of stuff.
It's pretty, I mean, I was actually surprised by how early everyone's sort of like, it's a monster. And I'm like, I haven't seen anything yet. It's all invisible. What are you talking about? What do you mean there's a monster?
So at that point, when you're only about halfway through the movie, I think, and they tell you, oh, it's a monster. We are confident we are dealing with a space monster. Then you would assume that the tension becomes, how do we solve this? Like, what do we try? How do we fuck up? You know, all these sorts of things. But it's an accident. They don't solve it themselves. I think it's like there's a swarm of bees or something that like fucks with Dogora and
they see there's a scene that I think the scene that I was thinking of when I was thinking of this, the science stuff kind of drags a little bit, is like when they hook up like speakers to try to listen for like hearing what Dogora's doing. I guess they're just studying it, whatever. But first,
well, there is like a sound that keeps appearing, so that's what they're trying to capture.
Sure, right. I mean, that all makes sense. But in that scene, they talk about, you know, they talk about how they've hooked up these like speakers or whatever, and they hear this like really frightening sound. And I was like, oh shit, this is like fucked up, like whatever this is. And it's like it goes on for a while, and everyone's covering their ears, like, what is that? Oh, it's terrible. And they're like, a dove flew by the speaker, and I'm like,
why?
What?
Why? It was such a scary moment.
Why do the fake out thing?
Dude, all that tension of us sitting there like leaning in for the noise.
And then, so I'm like, okay, why is that going to give someone an idea to be like, but the dove gave me an idea of how to defeat it. No, it keeps going on for a while. They hear another sound, and I'm like, okay, this is also a creepy sound. Why is Dogora making this creepy sound? That's interesting. Then they're like, it's honeybees. And I'm like, another fucking rant. Why? Maybe this is a bad setup if like any random creature could just fly by your fucking speaker and it just captures the sound and it sounds horrible and terrifying. And why is it so loud inside of this like lab right now? Turn down the volume if it's that bad, guys. That at least does lead to them being like, but why are honeybees flying this high in the atmosphere? There was no reason for bees to be going this high. And then I think that's how they figure out that like then debris kind of falls from Dogora, I think, or something. And then they realize that like the honeybees did something to him. But then I'm like, how do they get from that to wasp venom though? Because honeybees are not the same as wasps. I guess they're just close enough.
I think I should have taken more. I should have paid more attention to this, but there's some sort of like realization with the wasps. It's either that something genuinely is going on with the honeybees and they study them and figure out wasps are actually more effective, or the honeybees are a fake out and it was wasps all along. There's some transition between the honeybees and the wasp I don't totally understand. I just know that the first thing they notice is honeybees, and what they actually utilize are wasps. So I don't know if it's like, oh, the honeybees actually were up there because Dogora accidentally sucked them up and reacted, but turns out wasps are effective. I really don't know.
Yeah.
All of that to say, though, the fact that the solution to this monster is just who can, like, I like the moral of this, but the fact that the story of this is just like, hey, we have wasps. Let's put all of the world's scientists on making a bunch of wasp toxin that we can spray at the monster, and we figured this out on accident. It's kind of a fart to me. Like, there's not really much there.
I like the idea. I think that it comes from a kernel of an idea of like that these movies have played with before, of like the ideal of all the world scientists working together. It's like the same thing people have praised about Project Hail Mary, right? That like there is like, we can't see that happening right now given the way the world is, but there is an ideal future or an ideal version of this where like if there was to be some sort of global catastrophe, all the world scientists, regardless of politics, the scientists of the world could get together and work together to save the world. And I do think they were lightly alluding to that with the wasp thing, but it's portrayed with just some stock footage, I think, of just some barrels. So
the stock footage is bad. That moment's bad. We don't mind stock footage based on how it's used. This is not used
No,
well. It's just,
no.
it's truly filling a few minutes up. I like the idea of my complaint with all that is not the scientists of the world working together. And I don't even hate the idea that there is some sort of naturally occurring thing on Earth that is the solution that we would take for granted or we would never think to look at, right? Like
an organic solution, not organic as in organic glass, which is an artificial synthetic plastic material, but organic as in actually coming from the planet Earth.
Exactly. And I think like, it's easy to make fun of alien invasion movies where the solution is something like a glass of water or whatever. But I
love that shit though.
Right. I think that type of stuff makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a good thing to think about in there, which is the idea that the things that you take for granted or the things that you wouldn't think of or how easy it is to overcomplicate a solution
it's
might
be
a
War of the Worlds type of solution.
Exactly. So I don't even hate that. I think it's just what really bothers me is how much of a bumblefuck it is. Like they really trip into this, and I don't think it's in like a satisfying way. It doesn't justify having as many named speaking characters working on this solution as they do.
Yeah. I totally agree.
I do like the effect of the wasps on Dogora, though. I think having these, I know that you said it's a Looney Tune moment and you are not wrong, but I do like the idea of like, okay, well, we figured out how to defeat Dogora, but it also means we're going to create like rainfall of rocks and it's just gonna fuck shit up, you know?
Pretty wild, yeah.
And I think it looks cool because the rocks are these sort of like they basically turn Dogora back into individual cells, it seems like,
and then crystallize them,
and they crystallize,
so dead,
and then it falls to the ground. And what's funny in this movie about diamonds, which I think they could have played with more, is that they initially turn into these crystals, and then as they sit on Earth's surface, turn into just regular old rocks. And I think they do cool effects with that, where you see the crystal and then you see it turn into a rock. And sometimes they're a bit more effective in matching the shapes of the rocks than others, but I think that's funny.
Sure.
I think where it becomes a little bit silly is where you have the gangsters running along the beach trying to avoid getting hit with rocks. I get what they're going for because they're creating this sort of like, honestly, this is a wild comparison, but we're filming this very shortly after we're recording this very shortly after Star Wars Day, so it's on the mind. It's kind of the same timing idea as the fight with Darth Maul, where it's sort of like moment of action, and then you have to increase the tension by being like, now we have to stop. Action, stop. Action, stop.
Sure.
Like, I think you can play with that in a way that's interesting, and I think they were trying to do that because you have the gangsters shooting, hiding behind a rock, and then there's like rock fall, and they all have to kind of like stop and like reset, and then they like try to take advantage of the next moment. Interesting. It just doesn't, I don't think that the effect really succeeds.
Yeah, and I do think seeing that moment after they've gunned down Akiko Wakabayashi's character is a little bit, I don't know, that contrast is weird, man. None of that that should have happened after she got gunned down. Yeah, there shouldn't have been a big splat moment after fucking gunning a woman down on the beach. And,
in an extremely like sincere is a weird word, but like it's a sincere moment. It is
it's a genuinely
comedy. It's not over the top. It is like,
it's genuinely dark because I thought she was going to get away. She's running, and I was like, the movie had not been that dark up to that point, and the fact that they then surround her, and I'm like, oh fuck, this lady is getting killed, and they do shoot her, and she bleeds out on the beach next to the fucking bag of not diamonds is the big reveal of it. That's just fucking rock sugar.
Right.
So
dark.
Yeah, it's fucked up. And then they go splat with a rock when a rock falls on them like Wile E. Coyote. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it until we were talking about it, but like just how much this movie undercuts itself in ways that it didn't have to.
It's really weird.
Like, I totally get the ambition of the special effects and just not having the budget and the time to like perfect it and have to work with what you got. Like, that's fine. I can't really hold that against them. What they do with it is cool. But when they're undercutting themselves, that's like entirely on them, you know?
Yeah. This is completely off topic, but I totally forgot. This is actually genuinely cool. Because Dogora does make sounds that you mentioned.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know, that they're obviously trying to pick up on their way too overcranked loud speakers in their lab. But the sound effects for Dogora, they were created by capturing the sounds of clams with a special respiratory sound pickup microphone, and they combined that with other sound effects that they'd used. Like they'd use some with other sound effects that they'd use later on, basically.
The sound of clams? So are they like recording the sound of the motion of water or something? Like,
I guess
I'm assuming clams pump water in and out?
Respiratory sound. So I think probably,
Okay.
I'm sure that they are making sounds within the clamshell, right? Like,
But it's
they
like
are
that kind of thing where you wouldn't
pulsating.
necessarily hear it with your ear, but if you get
Right.
in there
But
and
yeah,
blow it up.
right. Like it's like putting a
Wow.
stethoscope on a heart, I guess, right? So
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so different than the stuff that we typically hear, because usually when we're talking about
Right.
screams, we're talking about
it's just like a
screams
lion.
built from animals that actually scream, like
Yeah.
roars and raptors and things like that. Yeah, that's wild. Oh, that's cool to know. I like that.
Yeah.
And it gives it this like, you know, underwater quality to it, this sort of like pulsating quality, which is cool and fits the monster for sure.
Yeah, and they would then use that sound to create other monster sounds in the future as well. So like an invasion of Astro Monster, there's like an alarm sound that they use it for, and then like Alien Baltan and Voltron and Ultraman also utilize that sound mixed with other sound effects for them.
Oh, cool.
It's very cool.
It's a great sound for like alien, like weird otherworldly alien stuff. So
Yeah.
I dig that.
But yeah, I mean, everything related to Dogora the monster is cool. It's just
Right.
like, you
Totally.
know, it's. I wish it
Totally.
was in a better movie. Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's in Planet of the Monsters or whatever.
Well, I guess technically it's in the best of those movies, but
Yeah, is that a better movie than this though? Jury's out.
Yikes.
I do think we mentioned it a little bit, but I do want to like properly stop down and talk about what I do
Yes.
think is the one hell yeah moment of this movie.
Okay.
Which just is that bridge scene. I think
Yes,
that
it's
is
very cool.
genuinely an extremely cool scene. It's the one time in the movie where I react to something and I'm like, oh my God, it's so cool. And it's because Dogora, it's one of the few times Dogora physically interacts with something, because usually it's levitating stuff, but it picks up a whole bridge, and there's a practical miniature bridge that they pick up, and it just sort of like breaks apart and crumbles because of the actual pulling they're doing practically to it. I think it looks really, really cool.
I agree. It's really cool. I think it works really incredibly well, and that is the memorable like special effects sequence from this. I think like everything else that they do, you know, there's a point when like a bunch of like smokestacks from like a factory get like pulled into the sky.
See, that levitation stuff is the stuff
that
I
stuff
like.
is
but that's like things, not people.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, it's not again not as memorable as like the bridge set piece, but I think if you're looking for like creepy things that this movie does that you're not going to see in other movies, the idea that it's just like random things can just be levitated into the sky, like that is creepy, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm totally down with that. And the fact that like the creature has no real motivation other than just it eats carbon and it eats diamonds and that's it, which means that it's like
It's an animal.
Right. And so it's like, and I think it's cool that it's like, oh, it's predictable up to a point. Like diamonds are the things it prefers, it seems like. So it's going after that. It's going after coal, but like it becomes less predictable. The more diamonds it eats, the more it's just going to go after any other carbon thing.
Well,
and guess what?
right.
We live on a fucking carbon based planet, right?
Right. The moment where they clarify, like, it's just carbon, like it just wants carbon.
Right.
It's like, oh shit, this is actually existential.
Yeah. So I think that's a really cool idea. I mean, that sort of, there's a real inherent creep factor to this movie that like when it sort of rears its head, that's when I think the movie's kind of at its best.
Yeah. I don't want to go back and watch the whole thing, but I do want to go back and watch the very like brief, probably seconds long Dogora news story from Planet of the Monsters, because I think it's in like England or something, and I want to see like, does it resemble this at all? Not necessarily the way that it looks, but like, is it like, do they depict it as creepy? Do they have anything floating, or is it truly just like, here's our reference point at it? If you've seen Dogora, you get it. You know what I mean? I don't know that
you even need to watch the scene though, because isn't it just a still image on a news report?
Oh, is it really? Oh, that's a bummer.
And I mean, you could just look up a picture of it, and it looks like Dogora from the movie. Cool.
It looks like Dogora in the Planet of the Monsters looks like Dogora from like the posters
Yes.
for this movie.
Absolutely.
Which I do think is a cool reference. It's probably just a reference. I just want to see them. I want to see someone else do something with. I'm sure someone else has done something with Dogora, but I want to see it. I want to know what's been done with it.
Dogora has showed up in things. Like obviously it's it's not like a personified monster usually, so it is kind of hard to like just throw it in anything. But like you can find some video games that find ways to use him. I think he's been in. He has been in some comics as well, or I guess he hasn't been. You know what? I thought he has been in more comics than he has. He's only been in a couple of them actually, and one of them was like the prequel to Planet of the Monsters. So actually has not been used as much as I thought. One of the funniest things though, in Godzilla Island, I don't know if you
is that one of the cartoony? Is that like the cartoon thing?
That's the one. I've shown it on Toku Thursday, so you maybe have seen it there, but if not, I don't know if you ever would have. That's the one where they're all like little toys. Like
can I look? Is it okay to look it up?
Yeah, you can absolutely look it up. It's not Gozy Band, which are puppets. It's the one from the 90s that they're literally just like toys on an island. And they just do stories with them. And Dogora does show up on that apparently at a certain point.
They make Dogora toys, or do they just like make a puppet for the show?
I think they probably just made it for the show.
That's so funny.
So I just, I think that's really funny. I mean, because Godzilla Island is such an odd, weird little show of shorts. So they just have like just sort of a vinyl like jellyfish thing that they use on it. Yeah.
That would be particularly funny because Dogora moves the way that it does. To have like just this plastic toy would be really funny. They should put Dogora into a fighter. I think it would be so funny. Can you imagine coming up with like a fighting game moveset for Dogora?
I mean, on Godzilla Island, he has business card shuriken where he materializes
business card shuriken.
He materializes. I have not seen these episodes that he appears in. Actually, I need to watch these episodes. I mean, we'll have to do some Patreon episode
thing,
on Godzilla Island because it's a bizarre show and I've only seen like a handful of them, but there's just like a bunch of shorts. But yeah, he apparently has orange business cards that he fires off to a palm of someone's hand to offer his services, and then later uses them as projectiles.
What are Dogora's services?
You know what? Patreon episode on Godzilla Island coming soon. The little I've seen different arcs of it. I saw one arc where Godzilla goes to jail because he's been framed for causing too much destruction. But then he does escape from jail eventually, and they track him down. They find out that he was being framed all along. Amazing. It's fucking so fun and silly and wild.
That's so funny.
Yeah, we will definitely do a Patreon episode on it.
I mean, if nothing else, this supports that like the most interesting and enduring piece of this movie is Dogora itself. I want to see what Dogora is in. I can't wait to find out what Dogora's business cards are. And like, I'm just curious to see what other creators and writers do with Dogora in the limited they've probably done with it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think you put it best at towards the beginning where you said like, it's hard to recommend it as a movie you'll have fun watching, but if you like kaiju movies or if you like these special effects movies and stuff, like it's an interesting one to watch. Like there's fascinating stuff in here to watch.
Yeah. It's like if you want to see a bunch of gangsters throwing dynamite at each other, there's lots of that in this movie.
Oh my God. Putting dynamite into people's pockets and leaving them there?
Dude?
That's so fucked up. I mean, it's a cool scene because you have Mark Jackson and Inspector Tomei
and
figuring out how to save each other. But
and that's fun. They're tied up, and I like when he's shooting the gun, and that gave me a lot of anxiety and stuff like that. But like shooting the gun at the chain, and then he misses like 4 different times.
I guess I should say Dogora the Monster and those two. Those are the things that are
fun. Those two are fun. Yeah. I do enjoy them a lot. But the dynamite also feels very Looney Tunes to me too. So like,
it's true. That's true.
It's very silly. They're just throwing that shit all over the goddamn place. It's so wild.
Yeah. I think it could be if it were the cat and mouse thing, I think you could easily find a place for all that sort of silliness, because I think those two are a little bit silly. But I'm never going to be able to watch this movie now without thinking of the Looney Tunes sort of comparison. Seriously. Unfortunately, so thanks.
Mm-hmm. Not my fault, man.
But I
don't know. Yeah, whatever. I didn't regret watching it.
No,
but it's very much like I will watch the scenes of Dogora again. I don't know how soon I'm going to be throwing this movie on necessarily.
Yeah. I've seen this movie now more than once. So
yep.
Yeah. I I don't regret watching it, but I think it's best to know that you'll probably go in and be disappointed. But I don't dislike it. If someone says, "Do you like the movie Dogora?" I would say yes, I do.
Yeah.
So
it's
a weird one. It's
just a weird one. It's a weird one. Weird kaiju, weird main plot of it, weird subplots, weird solution to the plot.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's not bad. It's just weird. And I like weird. It's just, maybe unintentionally weird.
Yeah.
But, oh well. You're doing the cover art. I don't know what it looks like, but if you're listening, go check it out on glitterjaw.com on our cover art gallery and on our social media. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Predictions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm asking this question. Do you think Dogora is going to appear in any other films we're going to watch on the podcast?
I mean, my genuine answer would have been no. So I would have been wrong. I only know that it appears again because we've already watched Planet of the Monsters. Yeah. But other than that, my answer is still no.
Right. Yep. Cool. I don't have any other questions about it then. On May 27th, we're going to be doing Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla from 1974. We're finally going to be getting to Mechagodzilla's actual first original appearance, which is very exciting that we're finally doing that kind of towards the end of the life of the original run of the podcast.
Yeah.
So what do you know about the Showa Mechagodzilla, the original OG Mechagodzilla?
I know what Showa Mechagodzilla looks like. It's like the one that I recognized already. It's the one that I think you see the most out of any of them. But I don't really know anything else about it. I don't know like why it exists. I don't know what its relationship to Godzilla is. I know the title is versus Mechagodzilla, so I'm assuming that they're like opposing forces, which raises questions, but it also could not be by the end of the movie. So I really don't know that much about it. I think I've probably seen like weapons or like things that it can do. Like I think it has something. I think it has an eye ray of some kind.
Sure. So any guesses on like the plot, how Mechagodzilla is created, involved, portrayed? Any guesses on how that would play out in a movie from 1974, especially?
That's so weird because like because we sort of worked middle and then backwards to this, like I'm primed to think of Mechagodzilla as a good idea gone wrong. But Godzilla's the superhero at this point in the movie, so I can't imagine this is a situation where it's like we need to make a Mechagodzilla to counter Godzilla. So I can't think that's it, which means that Mechagodzilla has to have been created nefariously, and I guess that Mechani-Kong was created sort of nefariously. So I guess it could just be a bad guy who's like, I want to take over the world, and Godzilla is powerful, so I'm going to make my own Godzilla. Like I guess that's kind of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any other kaiju you think are going to show up in this?
Oh, I would assume so. I feel like we're at the point in the Showa era where there isn't just like 1v1. So I would guess based on when this is happening, the last one we saw introduced was Megalon, right? So I'm going to guess that Megalon is there. Okay. And I feel like Gigan's a star. So I'm going to guess that Megalon and Gigan are back.
No Dogora? You don't think Dogora is going to show up in this movie?
Oh, I thought that was implied, that Dogora is going to be the star. It's actually going to be a robot Godzilla, and then the head's going to come off, and you're going to realize it was Dogora underneath the whole time.
Yeah, sure. What a reveal that would be. And everybody watching it would be like, who?
What? 10 years ago?
Great. Okay, very excited for that later this month. Also, a couple other things I'm very excited for. Also later this month, Doug and I are both going to be at Kaiju Brooklyn. May 30th and 31st in Brooklyn, New York, obviously.
Oh shit, this isn't in Brooklyn, Ohio? That changes things.
Wait, is there a Brooklyn in Ohio?
Yeah, it's very close to me.
Wait, okay, I mean, you know what? That is actually worth specifying then. Because who knows?
So Brooklyn, New York, everyone.
Brooklyn, New York. Wow. I was making a joke. That's very funny that's like a real thing. Kaiju Brooklyn in New York, May 30th, 31st. We're not doing events things. We're literally just hanging out. So we'll be around. It's a very fun, I went last year. It's a very, very fun time. It's a relatively small con, but in a really, really, really cool location. So I don't know if you're going to be there.
Yeah.
We'd love to know listeners exist in real
Yes.
life, not just on the internet.
Yes, and do say hi. I can talk all day on a podcast, but I'm very awkward in person. So say hi to me.
Oh, big same. I feel like that's like
you won't interrupt me. You won't bother me. It will be a helpful thing to walk up and say hello.
I feel like it's a requirement for being a podcaster is that like you talk a lot on the microphone when you're performing, and then the second you're in person, you can't
You're like, what
carry
do I do?
a conversation.
I've never spoken before in my life.
Right. Yeah. So we'll be there. Also, you'll probably have heard an ad at the beginning of this episode, but we've got a Glitterjaw wide listener survey out right now. The link to that is going to be in the description, but that is for anyone. If you only listen to this show on Glitterjaw, we still want you to fill that out. It's very helpful, not just for just getting feedback on our shows and the things that we make, but also just like podcast listening habits to see how we can like better, craft our shows to our listeners and things like that. So it's very, very helpful for us. And if you want to get a $50 gift card, you can enter to win that. Take our listener survey. That would be very helpful to us. But otherwise, Doug, if people want to find you and everything you're doing, where's the best place to do that?
You can find me all over the place at Ikkybooley, ICKYBOOLEY. You can listen to me on a weekly podcast I do with Derek called Walloping Web Snappers, where we deep dive into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. You can check out Falling with Style, which is sort of the predecessor to this show where we watched all the Pixar movies. We'll be back, I think, next month for Toy Story 5.
Is that next month?
I think so.
Okay.
There's our pre-movie feelings on that one.
If I have to.
But check that out. We also talked about Hoppers, which is a very good movie. So
I like that one.
You can always go back and watch Hoppers. And who knows, maybe Toy Story 5 will defy the odds. But go listen to Hoppers and check it out. We'll see if Toy Story 5 is good or not.
We'll see what terrible news about Pixar being homophobic comes out.
I know, next day. Yeah, exactly. You can also listen to me on Novel Gaming, a podcast where my friend Katie and I catch up on the books, video games, and sometimes other media we have been enjoying lately. And I just appeared on Play Comics to talk about the video game adaptation of DreamWorks' Over the Hedge, because that was originally a comic strip before it was a movie, and I talked about the video game. So
wild.
You can check me out over there as well. What about you, Derek?
Sure, you can find me most places at Derek B. Gale. My other podcasts that Doug didn't mention include Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, where we look at the Simpsons tie-in video games, as well as Gimmicks, where we look at high concept and experimental episodes of television. And if you'd like to find other queer creators who talk about media, including the shows that Doug and I just plugged, you can check out the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective at glitterjaw.com. Follow Glitterjaw on Blue Sky at Glitterjaw and on Instagram at GlitterjawPods. And join our Patreon at patreon.com/wallopingwebsnappers. That's obviously the name of our Spider-Man podcast, but we do plenty of bonus material for Screonk as well. We've been done quite a bit recently, actually. We have been covering Monarch. So at the time of this episode, we've done season 1 of Monarch and the first half of season 2, and we're going to have the last half of season 2 coming out at the end of this month. And right now on our Patreon, you can also listen to our episode on Zone Fighter with guest Chris Cummins, who I mentioned in this episode. He was on our Space Meme episode. He joined us to talk about Zone Fighter, which, if you don't know what that is, kind of like Dogora, kind of a somewhat like under talked about, mildly forgotten kind of piece of Godzilla lore, because that was a tokusatsu TV show with Ultraman inspired ripped off hero, and Godzilla and other kaiju in the Godzilla universe actually appear on that show a few times. So very fun episode. Check that out on our Patreon, just as little as $1 a month for those episodes. And check out our Discord if you want to chat with us, link to that in the show notes. Email us at screonkpodcast@gmail.com. Rate, review, subscribe on all your podcast platforms. And again, join us on May 27th for the first ever appearance of Mechagodzilla in 1974's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
See you then.
See ya.